December, as you know, most people come all the time in December. December 2nd, we're going to have our annual Christmas party right here. And we'll have a short meeting before that. There will not be any speakers involved. It will just be us. And the ones that want to stay for the Christmas things we do, all you have to be involved is a $10 gift. And I was told by Joe Schofield that he say this, no
Gift cards.
gift card, she said, no gift card, because she doesn't want any. So she probably won't want a gift either. Anyway, so that's what we're going to have, and then the election of offices, and the only offices we really be doing is the normal ones, because the treasurer is Darlene. Just still treasurer on this, aren't you?
Yes.
And so Darlene has enough votes, so she, unless I ask her to, she doesn't have to be here for that. But we'll be looking for a secretary, to see if the secretary wants to stay the one we have, or if she don't, we'll get one. And we also look for chairman, if the chairman wants to stay, if he wants to go, or whatever happens. But that's going to be our meeting next month, December 2nd. And January, we have some people that want to come in. I don't know, I'm not sure at the moment what January, do you have one for January?
Yes, we do, but we'll go over the January, February, because we're not quite sure which one
Okay.
we're going to do.
So anyway, I have someone that's going to fill in for January if needed, and February at the moment is going to be our new director at the library. Dylan, is it?
Dylan, yeah.
Yeah, I met him for a while. He's seems like a great guy, and he's had a good past career on a lot of different things. So he said he would take it either January, whatever one we needed, or January, February. Then we also talked to the Chris.
She's outside on the.
Where's she gone? Okay, Chris is going to see what we can do about the comfort dogs again, to bring the comfort dogs in. And Chris is also has other things lined up which we can get started for the first of the year in the spring. Talking about the comfort dogs.
Okay.
If it's available. Anyway, Chris said she would see about
Oh,
that.
absolutely. I'll look into that yet.
Then I also have two women, one of them, I think both of them know Darlene. They're from the Social Security office. One will be on the new laws of Social Security starting up. And the biggest one that I want to reiterate is that they claim in newspapers and TV that as of 2034, there will be no more Social Security. So that is something that they can't eliminate. That to me is somebody's got to get off the rear end in Washington and do something about it. That can't be done. And the other one is on some of the new laws and Social Security. That's a different woman.
What was the change?
So anyway, that's all I'm going to say today. And Darlene is going to take over because she has the speaker for today. And Jean Queen, who was working with Darlene, she's home sick. So that's it. Darlene, it's yours.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Ellen. We're so glad that Ellen is able to join us today. Ellen is the president and CEO of Honoring Choices, Massachusetts. And Honoring Choices, Massachusetts, I met some time ago, back in maybe 2000, through the SHINE program. And I was fortunate enough to utilize the Honoring Choices toolbooks and planning for the future, planning in terms of conservative guardianship and conservatorship. So I thought it might be a nice idea to have Ellen join us today to talk about the questions that come up often in the office. And if you can't get it from the second hand, I prefer to get it from the first choice, and that is Ellen. So as I mentioned, Ellen she had a former law practice, and she focuses on the guardianship as well as conservatorship. Mr. Fowler oversees all aspects of honoring choices and convenes the New England Healthy Living Collective and Consumer Health Equity Advisory Group. She chairs the Guardianship Serious Illness Advisory Group, which is co-sponsored by Massachusetts Health and Hospital Association. And I want to welcome Ellen. And this is our first time having a webinar, which is it's a Zoom meeting. So Ellen will present and provide us with information. And also, I have access to links and can print off things for you as well. But then you can actually, it's interactive, so that means that you can ask questions after she speaks. And there's other additional things that you need to correspond with. So we want to welcome Ellen to Palo.
Hi everyone, hi Darlene, can everybody hear me pretty well?
Yep.
Yes? Okay, good, and I can see most of you, which is unusual for these Zoom meetings. And as Darlene said, some of this information today you're going to know, it's going to be familiar to you, some of it might be a little different. But we always like to stop, I'm going to stop periodically and just see what your thoughts are. If you have questions or if things are different for you than I'm talking about, then we'd like to know what that is and see how we can. Darlene came to me and said, how do we do this all as a community? How do we make sure all of our first responders and all of our healthcare people can know your choices for care and can honor those choices? And that's what we do in our choices. But I'm so happy to be able to work with all of you as a community to say, what's best for you? How is it working there? And how we can support you. Now, Darlene, I see that this is people from the community. Do we also have other folks in the room? I can't see everybody.
Yes,
First responder folks,
so we have individuals from the district attorney's office as well as the sheriff's department. Please stand up. And thank you.
I love that you all stand up.
And we have our liaison officer as well for the senior center. And that's officer. Or detective person.
Yeah, and so this is an interesting webinar for me to do both at the same time. A lot of times we just offer a webinar to just everyday folks, but what I love about this is we might also be able to hear some of the other issues around, what happens if somebody gets sick and EMS has to come to your house? How does that work? And what can we do ahead of time to make sure that that's going to work for us? And so that's some of what we're going to talk about today. And as I said, let me stop periodically. I think I can hear you, but Darlene, it's up to you. People can raise their hands, and if I can't hear them, you can just help me figure it out. Sound good?
Now, I just have one more thing. Chief Wickham actually just joined us from our Halifax Fire Department, and this week actually has been an unusual week for here in Halifax. We had a large fire, and a life was lost. So he has he dealt with that and handled it very well, and we're very fortunate to have the police and fire department behind us.
That's wonderful. Welcome, everybody. So we're going to do a presentation here that kind of talks to all of you as everyday people, consumers, and we're also going to include some of the things that we know in terms of responding under Massachusetts law and under the protocols in the state for EMS. And then let's, figure out how we can help you make this work better. So let me put up the slide deck here. And we'll go through some of these slides and share. Okay, everybody can see that? Yes, Darlene?
Yep, maybe a little bit bigger, I think.
That's as big as I can go. That's the full screen here.
Just a little bit, that's a full screen.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of words in it, so you can just listen as well. Unfortunately, it's you can tell me when you're ready.
Okay, that looks good.
Okay, great. So I'm Ellen Patello. As Darlene said, I'm a former attorney, and I closed my law practice about 13 years ago. to start Honoring Choices Massachusetts, because it was just so frustrating to me that people of all ages didn't know that they could do a free document called the healthcare proxy. And it is one of these wonderful, highly protected documents for people to say, if I get sick tomorrow, even if I'm going to get better next week, I'd like to choose a person to be my advocate. I'd like to choose a healthcare agent so that agent can come into the hospital, can talk to first responders and say, here's what I want you to know about this person, and here's what they'd like for care. And in this crazy system we have in healthcare, be the advocate to be there to get that care for you. And that is really this wonderful thing under Massachusetts law. We get to do that, and we can do it for free, and we can do it ourselves, and it really does help all of our care providers to know who that advocate is, who that agent is. So what was really bothering me, I was a guardianship attorney, so that's the next step. If you don't have an agent, and you haven't done your healthcare proxy, in this state, the court then steps in to say, well, that person still needs care, they can't make decisions for themselves, so we need to appoint a guardian. And that happens in a court process. And we try really hard not to get there if we don't have to. And so that's why I closed the law practice. I said, look, I'm going to put up a website that's going to tell people what their rights are to do these documents and to get good care every day, not just when you're sick, not just at the end of life, but really, as you go through life. And make sure those documents are free and downloadable for everybody. So that's part of what Honoring Choices mission is. And today we're going to talk about two of those documents, and just all of them generally, but focus on the healthcare proxy, the MOLST form, medical orders for life-sustaining treatment, and we'll talk more about that, and what happens in medical emergencies. And when Darlene came to me, she said there's this great group in Halifax, the TRIAD group, and come and talk to us about how maybe we could work together as a community and how we can help, how Honoring Choices can support the work you're already doing. So this is what we're going to talk about today. My hope today, at the end of today, is you feel like you have the best information there is, reliable information, accurate information that helps you, it helps your community get you that best care every day, every single day, and in a medical emergency. So to tell you a little bit about Honoring Choices, we have a program here called Who's Your Agent? And it's a simple structured thing that everybody can use. We'll go through those 5 planning documents that are available to you to make your own plan. We're going to focus on the healthcare proxy and what your healthcare agent's decision-making authority is. The agent has a lot of power to make decisions, but they also need to do it to be able to help your first responders around you. We'll talk about the MOLST form, the medical orders for life-sustaining treatment. That's what MOLST stands for, and I'll show it to you and how it works. And I would love to go through just a little bit through some of the EMS protocols about what happens when a first responder comes to your home or to wherever you're sick, and how we can be prepared for that. The state is going to move from this MOLST form, medical orders for life-sustaining treatment, to a PULSE form. Now, all that really means is we're going to get a new form that I think is going to be better for all of us. That form is specifically to talk about your choices when you have a serious illness. We don't use that form until we're at that point where our doctors, we work with our doctors and our clinicians, and we're in a different phase of life, and then we can make some choices for end-of-life care and life-sustaining treatments. That's one form, but it's an important form. We'll talk more about it today. And then finally, just what resources we have that you might want. Everything is free and downloadable on our website, but essentially what we do is we work with different partners, especially the council on agents right across the state, because everybody's a little different in terms of what they have and what they need. And as I said, I'm going to stop often here for some questions. So this is what we do at Honoring Choices. I hope you can see this. Basically, it's a consumer organization here. And we say, it's your health care and it's your choice, right? That under the law in this state, which is very powerful, says that every adult, everybody in that room, can really direct their healthcare choices, can say, you know what, this is what's right for me. This is what I want for care. And we can write that down on these Massachusetts planning documents to make our own personal plan. And it's not just about advanced care planning documents, but it's about these documents are helping people get good care right now, today, as well as over their lifetime. So we work with everyone who's 18 and above. We're just thinking about how you get the best care, how you stay well, how you manage chronic illness, and then how do you live well with serious illness. So that whole trajectory is what we think about. So in addition to everything that's on our website for consumers, it's also there for all of the care providers. That we work with a lot of partners at Our Choices. We have hundreds and thousands of providers. And the whole idea is we want to give you and give everybody access to these planning documents. And so this wheel of people is everybody we work with, primary care doctors, all our community groups. We've been very fortunate to work with all of the council on agents for a very long time. We work with hospital staff and rehab nursing facilities, home care. You can see right around the wheel. Anybody, any care professional who you come into contact with, who can have a bit of a conversation about what would you like for care, and let's get it in these documents. So we also support all these partners with events and documents, and it's been a really great journey for the last 13 years. I had no idea this was really going to be, it was such a need, and was still very powerful. The partners take the tools and they help people have conversations, and they've had over 3.5 million at this point in time. And we do staff trainings to make sure the staff know the same thing I'm going to tell you today, and consumer webinars like we're doing now. So that's a little bit about our choices. But whether we're talking to you as an everyday consumer, or we're talking to nurses or hospitals or fire or police, we say the same thing. We say that everyone is on this healthcare journey. Everyone wants the same thing, to get the best possible care. And everybody needs a plan. And that writing it down and making a plan, it just becomes your personal roadmap to say, let me tell you a little bit about me. Here's what I want if I get sick. Here's who to contact. Here's the kind of care that I'm looking for. To be able to get that care when we need it. So we need to tell people what we want so that they know our choices and can honor those. And that's what the plan is about. So I wanted to start here because no matter how long I do this work, I find people don't know that they have these basic rights. Every one of us who's 18 and above is an adult. And we have, no matter what in healthcare, we have a right to get information to make informed choices. And sometimes this doesn't work as well as I hope. I was sitting in my doctor's office the other day, and she wanted to tell me about a new medication, and I couldn't understand a word she said to me. It was in some language I didn't get. And then she said to me, would you like to do that? And I said, I didn't understand it. So if I don't have the information, I can't make a choice. And that's what's important. And as a patient, you can always say that, and always say, look, you need to explain this to me in a way that I can understand it. And that's one of your rights. That's in the law. You don't have to make any choices until you have that information. Everybody has a right to say, yes, I want this care, no, I don't want this care. Accept and refuse treatment is totally your choice. The law in Massachusetts is very specific that everybody who's 18 and above can choose a healthcare agent. So that's the person. The agent is the person you choose to make decisions for you if and only if you can't make those decisions for yourself. Now, where we're finding the agent is really most powerful is when someone gets sick for a short time, like a pneumonia or falls and gets hurt, and then the agent steps in to be able to help them get good care until they get better. And then the agent steps right back, and the person still holds their right to make choices. So in this state, it's very important that when you choose somebody, be a friend, a family member, someone at the council on aging, that we write their name in a document called the healthcare file. we have to actually appoint that person in a document. In a lot of states around us, it's not true. But here we do. And then we have a right to use the other planning documents. I'm going to show you the other four today pretty quickly. But just so you get a sense of what they are, you can use those to make your own plan. And the whole idea here is that the people who care for you and all of your first responders can see those documents, can know what you want, and do their best to get you that care. But even, and this is for some of the other folks in the room as well, you know, even though we can tell you the law, we also know that things can change, that every organization has their own policies. So things might change when you get to a hospital or a nursing facility or a rehab. But you should know that those are your basic rights for care. So we have this program here called Who's Your Agent? And that's where I wanted to start. With this idea that everyone has a right to make these choices. And one of the first choices I can make is just to choose a person who can be there for me, who can be my advocate if I get sick. But that's what Who's Your Agent is about. It's this structured approach. We use the same language and the same tools, whether you're a consumer or whether you're a care provider. Hoping then that we can clear up a lot of the misconceptions about and just things that are wrong about the law, and so that consumers and care professionals can really talk better together. So we have two toolkits. Everybody can have one of these. They're free and downloadable. The Getting Started toolkit has been very popular, and that's just starting a simple conversation. One of the things we've learned here is that we don't have to always talk about end-of-life care. We can just talk about how you're doing today. And do you have a healthcare proxy to pick someone to be your advocate? And if you don't, what do we do about that? One of the things we can do is to use another document called a personal directive. And I'm going to show you that today. And then after you have that simple conversation, you can start to build on those conversations with your care providers to manage chronic illness and live well with serious illness. And that's in the Next Steps toolkit. So I just want you to know that the Next Steps they're both on the website, but today you can just know that they're there and you can take a look at them later if you like. So it can get a little confusing in Massachusetts. We do have at least 5 documents, and it's hard for people to know what they are, what they do, when to use them. First, I want to say that planning is all voluntary. You don't have to do it, but it certainly helps your loved ones and it helps your care providers know what you want. But you don't need these documents in order to be treated or admitted. But again, sometimes with our organizational policies, they'll say we require a healthcare proxy. So it's always good to do this if you can. So in that Getting Started toolkit, you'll see a healthcare proxy, which is that it's a legal document. We're going to go through it more in-depthly. But basically, all it does is say, I have a right to make my own decisions, and I'm transferring that right, I'm giving that right to this other person, to my advocate, to my healthcare agent, a person I trust, who can step in and make decisions for me if I can't make those decisions myself. They're healthcare decisions, they're personal decisions, but it's a pretty simple document, and it's really powerful as well. Then Honoring Choices offers this document called a personal directive. In this state, we have some kind of, we call this document a lot of things. Sometimes it's usually called most usually often called a living will. But it's personal. There's no law really behind it, but I'm going to show it to you. But it's such an important document because it gives instructions to your agent or to your family or to your first responders around, here's what I want you to know about me. And here are some of my instructions for how I'd like you to treat me if I get sick. Now, since it's personal, it's not legal, and nobody's really bound to use it, but we find that our doctors really like it a lot because it tells them something about you and your wishes. So both of those documents are in the Getting Started toolkit, and that's really all you have to start with. Of all the things today, we're just going to focus on that, and then know that if you've done that, terrific. And if you want to move documents sometime as you go. We'll tell you about those other 3 documents. Very quickly, the durable power of attorney you may have heard of, that's actually a legal document. And it does one thing. You get to pick a person to be your financial decision maker. So the healthcare proxy is a person you choose, you pick a person to make healthcare decisions. But the durable power of attorney is different. This is a person to help you make financial decisions. If you're not able to do that, or if you just need some help, someone to manage your money, to write checks, to be able to safeguard your money and your property. And that document, we typically say that please do with an attorney. We can talk more about that. I'll show you the fact sheet we have on that. And the last 2 documents are actually called medical orders. So you can see why it's a little confusing here. We have legal documents, personal documents, and medical orders. Most of you already have heard about the DNR, or it's typically a bigger name is the Comfort Care Do Not Resuscitate Order. And it's a medical order you do with your clinician. So a medical order only comes from a doctor or a licensed clinician. You sit down and you talk with them. Typically this is done when somebody has a serious illness. And the question becomes, if your heartbeat and breathing stops tomorrow, what do you want us to do? Would you like us to attempt to resuscitate you, to get your heartbeat and breathing started? Or would you just like to die comfortably and get that comfort care? And that's a decision you make with your clinician in a medical order, and we'll show you that, what that looks like a little bit more. About 14 years ago, this new document came into the state, a little longer now. The short name for it is MOLST, but the longer name is Medical Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment. And what it basically did is it took the Do Not Resuscitate order and put it in this form, and then it added 2 more decisions to make. If your heartbeat, if you have a serious illness, and then one day your heartbeat and breathing stop, or you get to a point where you're in respiratory arrest or cardiac arrest, or you're in a position where you need some help, you need to make a decision. So we'll show you what the MOLST form does, but the decisions there are again, you do this with your doctor. You sit down, you talk about your health at that point in time, saying, I have this serious illness. What happens if I get into trouble? Do you want us to resuscitate you? Yes or no? Would you like us to help with breathing, with ventilation, if you can't breathe on your own? Yes or no? And the third choice on that form is for people who are quite sick and maybe in a hospice situation, and they're getting tired of going back to the hospital. And so they say, please don't transfer me to a hospital situation. So I want to show you that form. I just want you to remember these last 2 forms are really, they're not for everybody. They're for people who have an advancing illness or a serious illness and still have that very sacred right to say, I still want to choose the treatments I get at that point in life. So I'm just going to stop for a minute and see if any initial questions come up or thoughts about the documents. I just threw a lot of information at you, but this is what we work with at Honor Choice. Any thoughts about this document, please? The way they work in town? We're good so far? Okay. So those are the 5 documents, and all that information is on our website. We have downloadable fact sheets and the actual documents for the Getting Started toolkit. Okay. And what's really worked here well is we just said, everybody in the state, every single person can start to make their own personal plan, but just have a simple conversation. Now, you may have already done this. But we have this kit called the Getting Started Toolkit. We hope it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. You can download it. The first step is about choosing a healthcare agent. If you can choose an agent, a person you trust, to make those decisions for you when you're not able, terrific. We do that first. We put their name, we put them in that healthcare proxy. step 2 talks about, you know, the real important things that are important to you, what matters to you. And you can use this personal directive to actually write down what's important to you, what kind of care you want and don't want. So it becomes instructions for your healthcare agent. So the question document is that you can, about 30% of the people in the state can't choose an agent, so just not able to choose an agent. Let's just fill out a healthcare document. Well, what they can do is come into this personal directive and say, let me write down what is important to me here. Let me give instructions for care. And then give it to people who are important in their life. And they also can share it with their primary care doctor to say, if I get sick, put this in my medical record so that you know what it is that I want for care. So that you can use that personal directive in a couple of ways. So also in the toolkit, step 3 is just other tools for you to talk to your care providers. You know, as soon as you do a document, you got to give it to that provider, let them know what you want, and then the provider can put it in your medical record. It's great to have a healthcare proxy, but it's not going to do you much good if it's in your drawer or on your refrigerator unless it's also in the medical record. We've got to tell our providers and our first responders what we want for care. So that step is really important. And sometimes people just don't, it's not easy to do it, right? We have to get it to our doctors, get it, they get it in the medical record for you. They'll scan it in. But that's the toolkit that everybody can start with. I'm not going to go through it in depth today, but again, I'm happy to talk more about it if you want. But Darlene wanted me to talk today about just what the authority of that agent is. It's a very powerful document, that healthcare proxy. So you choose a person to be your agent, and that agent has a job. That agent has powers. So first to know, right, as we talked about, that proxy is a legal document. So anybody who sees it, doctors, nurses, EMS, anyone else, has to honor it. They have to assume it's valid, it's a good document, and say, okay, on this document it says who we should call, who the agent is to help make decisions about care. You can do it yourself. You don't need a lawyer. You don't need a notary. We're going to show you the document in a minute, and if you haven't done this, I'm happy to help with that, and Darlene, we're happy to think about ways to bring it to the COA as well. And just one of the big problems in this state is that someone will, we had a daughter call me the other day about her mom who was sick and wanted to do a healthcare proxy. And the daughter said to me, well, do we really need to do this? I'm just going to take care of her. I just make all the decisions for her. And I said, you know, you may do that, but you don't have the legal authority to do that unless she appoints you in that healthcare proxy. So in this state, you can't just say, oh, my husband or my wife or my friend will make decisions. We really need to give them the power to make those decisions, and their name has to be written in that document, in that healthcare proxy. So what does an agent do? Well, that agent, healthcare agent, has the same power that you do to make any decisions and all decisions about your healthcare, any personal decisions. And when I mean personal, I mean what kind of care do you need? And they also can make decisions of end-of-life care or decisions about what kind of care you want at the end of life. That's what I mean, this agent has a lot of power, which is good. You want someone helping you, someone you trust. You can also, in the healthcare proxy, limit some of those powers, and I'll show you how to do that. But the healthcare agent can also make changes and can tell others. They can tell others that, you know what, if we've done these other documents, I don't want to use them anymore. So the healthcare agent can come in and make changes. And that's, again, if you're not able to do that, then your healthcare agent's in charge, and they can change their mind about making medical decisions, the agent is always supposed to work with the doctor. Okay, you're always getting information from your treating doctor about what's best for you, what kind of treatments are available to you. But it's the agent who makes the decisions about that. Sometimes family members are really surprised to learn that, again, they can't just come in and to an emergency situation and say, here's what I want you to do. And this unfortunately happens a lot with our first responders and our EMS teams. You know, we have kind of upset family members when someone gets sick. Of course they're upset. And sometimes family members can have a lot of opinions about what to do next. And this is why it's important to have one healthcare agent, to choose one family member or one friend to say, that person has the authority to make decisions for me. So family members are often surprised to learn that they don't have the legal authority to make decisions unless their name is in their healthcare file. So we do talk a lot to families who say, oh, you know, my daughter will make decisions for me, but she can try. But if another family member objects to it, says, no, that's not what I want for mom, then we have a problem, right? Then the doctors don't have what someone calls a coach or an agent to say, I'm the legal decision maker. So that's another reason you want to appoint. It's very easy for a healthcare proxy to be valid. I'm going to show you how to sign the date in 22 weeks. So I wrote this more for I'm hoping you can all see this, but also for the fire and EMS folks in the room and others, and from the other departments. Does this follow what your thinking is on this? Are there issues that come up with this when you're out trying to help people? I'll just stop and hear if there are comments about that.
Follows our protocols?
Yeah.
So yes, it does follow our protocols. Obviously, we want to make sure that these documents are updated at all times because, you know, what you think you have on that paperwork may change in the future, or your thoughts about what you put on that paper may change in the future. You know, for us, when we're out on scene, we see that documentation, whether it be most of the DNR, public care, whatever it may be, the healthcare proxy. There's a couple of things that come into play is A, we need the proper documentation, or else we're treating the way that our protocols are to be treated. So for us, this documentation is extremely important because if your wishes are that you want to be treated in a certain way, if that paperwork is not present to us, it doesn't exist. Okay, so when she's talking about all these papers that are here, and you decide on one thing and you change your mind, make sure you update your paperwork, okay? Because we need to see that paperwork to confirm that A, someone is your healthcare proxy, B, on most, or whatever it is, what your wishes are. If we don't have that, then it's implied consent and we treat towards our protocols, okay? So yes, it does follow up.
I do.
Thank you. Really important to keep these updated. And we'll show you how to do that as we go. And I also appreciate you saying how important it is to you to have it. People don't always know that. Was there another question coming?
Yeah, Ellen, I do have a question. Does it necessarily have to be on a piece of paper? It came up with a question when I was doing my clinical work. There was a question that the EMTs showed up, and the gentleman had "do not resuscitate" tattoo on his body.
No.
I'm just asking. And it was just interesting. I'm like, well, does that mean it's a legal, you know, this is a "do not resuscitate" tattoo? You know, I'm just kind of throwing that out here as a little bit of interesting.
Yeah,
It's
I
an
appreciate
interesting
the
thought.
question. I know there was a time when my son is a first responder, and he was telling me a lot of people were getting tattoos. And unfortunately, it doesn't show up in the law that way, or the protocols that way, that a tattoo will do it. So I think that, I'm sorry, Rebecca, Chief, you're so minimized, it's hard for me to see. I think his comments were, they need to have the paper. They actually need the form, the document in their hand. And again, because and the other point that he made was, that person could change their mind, you know, and not get the tattoo removed.
Right.
So that's updated and really easily available for anybody that needs to find them. I've also been asked lately if people sometimes take a picture on their phone of their healthcare proxy, and is that valid? Again, it's not in the law. The law is not saying that first responders and hospital folks can accept it. That becomes a choice of usually what I'm hearing from the hospitals, if they can download that onto a piece of paper from your phone, then they have the form, right? And then they can honor it. But again, we're still at a point where we have to use the paper and we have to show that paper and give that paper to others. Any other thoughts about this as we go? Okay, sorry for so much wording and language. We're trying to give you both sides of this. So I really appreciate the comments about how this actually works. So here's the online choices healthcare proxy. You can use any healthcare proxy you want, anyone that comes from your doctor or your hospital. We put this up on our website so that people can have it for free. It comes in 16 languages right now. And I'm sorry it's so little here, but one of the things about our healthcare proxy is that it's one page and it's simple. I can just run through it fast, but as you can see, number one is you put your name down, your address. That language underneath it is just cites the law in Massachusetts saying this is a valid healthcare proxy. In number two, you put down the name of your agent. Who did you pick? What's their name and address? How do people contact them? So anyway, this is your document. So you can put down anything you want here. Somebody has an Instagram or somebody has an email. Phone numbers are best, but we find people have very different ways to be contacted these days. Number three is if you can pick a backup person or an alternate healthcare agent, terrific. And that means if your first healthcare agent can't be found, that alternate agent kind of steps up and is able then to help you. So a lot of people can't choose an alternate, so that's okay. You can just leave it blank. It's great to have two if you can. And number four, that's just giving you authority. That's saying, I have the right to make any and all decisions about my care, and I'm giving that right to my agent. And if there are things you want to limit or give some instructions, you can write them in here. But if you don't, if you just feel like you want to give your agent the power to make those decisions, you leave it blank. And then the simple thing now is in 5 and 6. This is the only trick to this document. You're going to sign it and date it, but before you do that, you need to have two people standing next to you. Anybody who's 18 and above to act as a witness. And all the witness is doing, it can be anybody in that room, can be a witness to say, I'm watching this person sign this form. They look to be about 18 years old. Nobody's making them do it. And they look to be of sound mind. You don't have to do much to that. So how it works is, if this was my healthcare proxy, I'd have two people standing next to me as witnesses. I would sign it and date it. I give the pen to witness one. They put their name in there. They give the pen to witness two. Put their name in there, and you have a valid healthcare proxy. Now, one other thing to know is that witnesses can be anybody, but they can't be the person you choose as your agent or your alternate agent. So you can't be a witness and an agent at the same time. So that's the only trick to this document, and you can see how easy it is to do. Number 7 is just optional. Some of our doctors have said they really like to know if the healthcare agent accepted the job, if we've talked to our agents about what we want for care. So sometime after you do this document, you can ask your agent if they want to sign it. Don't have to, but we're finding that the doctors kind of like it. Questions about the healthcare proxy? Very easy to do and right on our website. because this is what Darlene asked me to do. We're always very aware of working with EMS and the protocols, what they have to follow when they're on scene. And we helped to develop this law, so it's very close to me, this part of the protocol. So if they, let's just do it this way. Let's say someone in your household has a serious health issue. And maybe, you know, their breathing is compromised, their heart, their respiratory, their heart is in trouble. You call EMS, and they come to respond. And if anybody is there from EMS, I'd rather you tell this story than me, but please contribute as we go. So what is EMS going to do? Everything they can to get you stabilized, to get you treated, and to get you likely then, if needed, transported to a hospital. So what happens, though, if the healthcare agent is standing there? So say that I'm in trouble here in my house. My husband has been appointed as my healthcare agent. He is now going to speak for me. And what he has to do is he has to show the healthcare proxy. He has to put it in his hand and say, I'm the agent, here's the healthcare proxy, and here's the decision I want to make. If it's different than fully treating people, the agent can tell EMS what those instructions are. But it's very important that they have a document in their hand on a scene. Okay, so if EMS comes to your door, they're going to assume that the healthcare proxy is valid. They don't have to check it, right? That's part of the protocol. But if my husband is that healthcare agent, and he can give verbal instructions, as long as he has that healthcare proxy in his hand, and he can say, please treat her, or you know what, I'm going to refuse care, I don't want you to transport her. He can do that. Or if there's a mulch form, and we'll talk about that, he actually can give instructions to say, follow that mulch form or don't follow that mulch form. So this is just in terms of the everyday average consumers in the room there, this is why it's really important to have a healthcare proxy in your house. Have a copy, have a couple of copies, so that you can always give that to the first responders to say, here's, even if your agent isn't there, say, here's my healthcare proxy, you can call this person, that's my agent right there. But if the agent is there, they can give some instructions for care. And does anybody want to comment on that? It's a little hard to translate this over Zoom. Does anything different happen than that?
For the car information, no, it's pretty straightforward.
Did you talk about whether the healthcare proxy says one thing and the patient says another?
That's what we're discussing at the moment.
Yeah, that's what.
But as long as the patient is still able to speak for themselves, we'll take the patient's word over the proxies.
Right, sorry, it's hard for me to hear you. Did you say the patient can talk for themselves?
If the patient is still coherent enough to speak on their own behalf, we're going to go to the patient's wishes versus the proxy.
Absolutely, that's a good point, and that's not here, and that's absolutely true. That's the first point, right? The person can always themselves say, here's what I want you to do, here's what I don't want you to do. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. What we're saying is that if we show up on scene, there's a healthcare proxy, but the patient itself requests something different, we've got, as long as the patient is in the right state of mind, can answer questions appropriately, all that kind of stuff. If they go against what the healthcare proxy says, it goes back to the actual patient.
Right, okay, terrific, thank you for that comment. Right, again, that goes back to our choice, right? What's your choice at that point? And as long as you're able to talk about it, that's great. A lot of times people may not be well enough to do that, and so we want to get them to that healthcare agent as soon as possible. And this is where it gets tricky, we work with a lot of people from EMS, and we hear a lot of really tough stories about they're doing their best job to get you treated and usually to get you to the next step, to a hospital or wherever is needed. And sometimes family can get involved, and if there's a lot of family in the house, it can be difficult to say, no, I want you to do this, no, do that, and there, it complicates the problem. So again, if you can choose someone to be your agent, then that person is decision maker if you can't make those decisions for yourself? Now, it sounds like you all have been through this and know it, but a lot of our communities don't have this information. They don't know that they need to have a healthcare proxy in their hand, or if the adult can't make decisions. So, again, it's terrific that you all have been through that. That's part of what we're trying to work with these days. So this might be fun too. If you have a healthcare proxy, this is a wallet card that's been very popular in the last few years around you can make it yourself and you can put it in your wallet. And basically what it says is, I have a healthcare proxy, so in an emergency, call my healthcare agent. And it just gives you that extra degree of help. We had a gentleman call us recently he was shopping in a grocery store and he slipped and fell and hit his head, and EMS came to help him. And he really couldn't focus. He had a concussion. So they looked at his wallet. Not only did they find his ID, but they found his wallet card. And in that town, they very generously just, his daughter's name was on the card, saying the daughter was the healthcare agent, so EMS told the daughter and said, your dad's here, we're taking care of him, we're going to go to the local hospital, you want to meet us there. And it was such a great experience. And so that's what's been happening with this card. So it's on our website, and it looks like this. You can just download it onto a regular piece of paper, or print it on a regular piece of paper. It looks like that long rectangle. And then you fold it in three. And it shows you, the instructions will show you how to fold it. First we cut out the rectangle, then we fold it into three. And on the inside, you write your name and the name of your agent and some phone numbers. And it's been a really great bridge to, especially in communities, to know, let's look for the wallet card. So what if you or someone you know
If I may.
who's not able to
Excuse me.
use the healthcare?
This is just a humble request for your wallet card.
Sorry?
On your form, on the wallet card, on the computer screen, can people free type the information in? Or is it just print only and handwrite it later?
Just print only. We need to get this bigger. So it's on our website under the wallet card. And you just print it on a regular piece of paper and cut it out. And
Oh, no, that's understood, but if people have the option of typing the information in.
Go ahead.
To make it more legible?
Yeah, because with all due respect to everyone in society, handwriting is not beautiful. So if people were able to type the information in and then print it.
But it's very clear on the card. Is that what you're asking me?
Yes.
If it's legal, will they accept printed versus?
Oh, yeah, they'll still need a signature on it, but if you're just looking to give information on this card, if people could type the information in prior to printing.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Is it fillable?
Okay.
Yeah, is it a fillable
I apologize, it's hard to hear you, it's choppy.
I'm trying not to yell in the middle of the crowd as well, I apologize.
This is not a good room either.
So we can probably type it in, we'll use it, figure out where to write legibly, number one. And it's not, I thought I heard the word legal, and I do want to say that this card is not legal at all. It's just information, that's all it is.
Understood.
So nobody's really bound to follow it, except that we have found that for doctors in the emergency room and for first responders, this is a quick way to know who the healthcare agent is. But we still have to have a healthcare proxy to make this work.
Right.
I think if I'm hearing you right, sorry, you're giving me an idea, which is that maybe I need to have a fill-in one on the website so that we can type it. Is that?
Yes.
Okay, it's a great idea. Thank you. I think we will graduate to doing that as well. All right, terrific. So what if you're not able to choose an agent? We think about 30% of the people in the state just can't. There's just no one to appoint. You've outlived everybody, and it's hard to know who to appoint. Or adults have an illness or disease which limits their decision making, and they maybe can't fill out a healthcare proxy. Or we're finding with a lot of multicultural families, they just prefer to start with a conversation about what do we do if grandma gets sick, and the family talks about it, and then maybe we'll appoint the healthcare agent later. But what we say to these folks is, if you can't take an agent, that's okay. You know, it's preferable, but so what? You also have another document here called a personal directive. And this is a personal document, it's not legal, right? Nobody actually has to follow it when they see it. Although in Massachusetts, we do have a law that says, if your doctors know what you want for care, they should do the best to get that to you. So in this document, and it's not legal, but this is where you write down what matters to you. You know, what's important to you, here's some instructions for care. So the first page, you can fill in the blank, you can tell people what's important, you can say things like, you know, if I get sick, this is the kind of care I want, and then in number 2, you can tell other people who else you want to know if you get sick. Give them a job, take care of my cat if I'm in the hospital for a few days. That's how this personal directive works. On the second page, it's optional, but you can write in things about your medical condition, or what you want for care if you really get seriously ill, and you have to make those decisions about CPR and other things. This doesn't bind your doctors, it doesn't say they have to follow it, or your first responders, but we have found that a lot of our older citizens who don't have a serious illness, they can't fill out a mulch form. This is the one place they can write down what they want for care. And again, it's been working well as a document to talk about with families and friends. To say, if I get really sick, this is what I'm thinking about. So this is your personal directive or your personal statement. You sign it, you date it, you don't need witnesses for this one. If you can't pick an agent, it's a good thing to do, and then go talk to your doctors, your primary care doctors, and ask them to put it in the medical record so they know what you want to for. So I know we're running out of time here, so I just want to get to the other documents quickly. The durable power of attorney is another document you might consider. This is a legal document. What you see on the right side is our fact sheet about what a durable power of attorney is. In Massachusetts, this is the legal document where you appoint someone you trust to manage and protect your financial matters. So your money, your property, and your business affairs, if you're not able to do that, then you can get some help. And it protects, even, you know, if you have a small amount of money or property, it protects it. And that person you pick can help too if you get sick. They can help get you care and pay for that care. So this is a document we should consider. Darlene, at some point, let's talk about if you have attorneys. I know a lot of counsel and agents have attorneys coming in, and maybe you can talk about this document. So the last 2 documents are those medical orders that we talked about. The comfort care do not resuscitate order, or usually people just refer over to CMR. This is what it looks like. This is the state's form, right? And it's a medical order, right? We can't do this by ourselves. We talk to our doctor about our current medical condition, and usually it's when we have a serious illness. We say, what are the benefits of me getting CPR if my heartbeat and breathing are at risk of stopping? What are the risks of that, given my medical condition? You talk about that with your doctor, you make the decision. If your decision is, you know what, I just want to be comfortable, but do not attempt resuscitation, do not to restart my heart if it stops, don't attempt to help me with breathing. If that's your decision, then you do this form with your doctor, right? Don't resuscitate me. And you sign it, your doctor signs it. This is something that EMS can follow. It's this Massachusetts form, right? And the only trick to this form these days is that a guardian can't sign it. Now, a guardian is a different person. They're appointed by the court to help make ordinary decisions for you about your health. But they need special permission from the court if they're going to sign this form. So if that applies to anybody, it's becoming more common that there are guardians out there, and they don't have the same power an agent has. And so as I said to you in the very beginning, if you can choose an agent now and do a healthcare proxy, terrific. You can avoid any legal proceedings and any guardianship proceedings later on. But you can see the guardian just doesn't have the same power as an agent. So everybody will look at this and assume it's valid. You know, if it's a valid form, it does have dates on it. It could have an expired date, and this is something EMS will pay attention to and other first responders. But just generally speaking, I think they know how to handle this. The problem we see with this is, say I need to go to the hospital for a quick procedure, and I do a DNR in the hospital. I do the hospital's do not resuscitate order. When I leave that hospital, that order isn't valid anymore, because that was a hospital one. And a lot of people don't know that. They'll take that copy home and think it's real. If you want to do this form, it comes from the state. This is the Massachusetts Department of Public Health form, and this is the one that can last, can stay permanently. I just want to ask the responders in the room if you have trouble with that, if that's a misconception, or you run into that.
Misconception about what, the dates, or what was the question, sorry?
That people come home with hospital DNRs that are no longer valid, but they haven't done this form yet.
We don't usually run into that issue. Usually if we do run into that issue, it would start treatment and contact medical control to contact one of the doctors for, which direction the leg is going. But normally we don't have a problem with that because we don't have anything from the hospital.
That's good to know. Great. In some towns maybe where there's a big hospital, sometimes they forget to tell people that once they leave the hospital, that temporary DNR is not valid anymore. So again, if you're in a state that you want to do this, you go talk to your doctor about it. You talk about your care, what you want, and can sign this form with them. This is the most forms of medical orders for life-sustaining treatment. It's usually pink, but it doesn't have to be. It can be white. Same type of idea. This is a medical order you do with your doctor. The patient or a healthcare agent can sign this form to make it real. But first you have a conversation with the doctor and say, here's my illness, what are the benefits, what are the risks, if my heartbeat and my breathing are in trouble tomorrow, do I want CPR? So you talk to your doctor about it, you make the decision saying, you know what, I want you to attempt it or I don't. Your doctor fills this out because it's their order. And you also talk about ventilation, right? A lot of times you have the heartbeat issue and the breathing go together. And if you want to have artificial, if you want to be intubated or have some artificial breathing mechanisms so that you can keep living, keep going. You can say, yes, I want it, no, I don't. Your doctor fills that out, check the box. The third decision you make is, do you want to be transferred to the hospital if you get sick? And again, you decide that, the doctor or the clinician will check the box. The patient signs this, the healthcare agent can sign this. The guardian cannot sign it unless the court has said they can. So if you know someone with a guardian, that's a little different, but most patients can sign it and the healthcare agent can sign it. The clinician signs it and it becomes a valid order that everybody follows. Now, and again, this is where it gets tricky, because in the field, I know that sometimes families may know that there's a most order, but they may not want to follow it when someone is sick, right, and really badly sick. And I know that presents challenges for people who come to help you with EMS. But that's why I would go back to that first really important comment there about keeping these forms up to date. Keep looking at them. If you do this form, keep talking to your doctor doctor about how your health is changing, do your preferences change? Do you want to change the form? You can do that. That form belongs to you. Even though it has to be filled out with a doctor, those are your choices. So I can tell you more about that. Are there any issues from the first responders there that you want to make people aware of when it comes to mold?
Just regarding changes, it involves getting a whole new form. Don't just cross off one section and say you changed your mind. You need an entirely new form. Now, if you're still conscious and able to talk to us during these situations, we'll honor your wishes. But you can't just alter the form as we're sitting there. You need to get a whole new one each time you decide to change something. Because as she had said, this form, yes, it's good for you for the rest of your life, but you can still change it at any point. But if you do decide to change it, you now need to do the whole new form over again. And then once you do, get rid of the old one. Just get it out of the equation altogether. Because if we see two, that'll just confuse things. We can look at dates, but just get rid of it.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Right,
what
thank you. Yeah, and to remember that this is a medical order, so you can't just cross it out and change it. This has to come from your doctor. It's their authority that they're saying to everyone else, okay, here's what my patient wants, and my name is on this, and you follow it. So that's a great comment about, if you change your mind, and you can change your mind as often as you want, as long as you have that ability to make those decisions. Go change it with your clinician. Did I hear another question from you?
Yeah, I was just questioning on the fact of how is it now that the post form is going to be simplified?
Yeah, I'm going to show you it. Would you like to see the form, the post?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to skip this one because I'm running out of time here. I'm going to skip this. So the state, and unincorporated has been very involved in this, is going to upgrade from that MOLT form to a new form called PULSE. And PULSE just simply stands for, in this state, Portable Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment. And what that means is once you do this form, it's yours. You can take it with you. From home to hospital to nursing facilities to wherever you need it, so that people always know what you want for care. That's what portable means. So very simply, in the last couple of years, Massachusetts joined this national group, wonderful group of 45 states, all thinking about end-of-life care like this. So our Office of Health and Human Services and the age folks, the aging and independent folks are leading this new charge to update the form. We're going to use the national PULSE form, kind of change from the most one, get a new form. And then an exciting thing here is they're creating a 24/7 e-PULSE registry, which means now we're going to have putting these forms, completed forms, kind of in the cloud, right, in a registry, so that EMS can easily go find them if you're in trouble, or your emergency doctor can easily find them. They'll be in this registry, they can pull them down out of the registry, and they can know your choices right away. So instead of the paper form, there's going to be a form that the clinicians can fill out electronically, online with you. And then they'll put it in this registry with your permission. You can opt out of the registry, you don't have to do it. You can put it in the registry, or you can just keep your paper copy. So everyone's going to get a copy of, put on their refrigerator. And then again, make as many copies as you want. That's okay with you. So that's the new thing, and that should help us be able to know what people want, and then ideally it can help us too when we want to change our minds, and do a new form. It should be easier to do it that way. But mostly it's going to help your first responders to be able to see those documents quickly. Just so everybody knows, the form, I don't know if the form is simpler. Some people have looked at it and said it's more complicated. I like it because I think it's going to help people have better conversations about this. And they're putting out educational modules right now, putting together training for all professionals, consumer information, that's all going to come. They're not going to roll this out till 2026, 27, keeps moving. But one of the also the nice things, I know you're not that close to other states, but you might go to Rhode Island, you might be in New Hampshire, and something might happen. The states are going to start to honor the forms across the state lines. We still have a lot to work out on that, but we're working hard on it. There's a lot more information on this on the New Pulse website, and you can go take a look at it. Just type in most of Pulse and you'll see it. I'm going to ask the first responders in the room if they have any questions, but this is the new form. It goes like a little crowded. Let me just break it down for you really quickly. So this is the form you do with your doctor, right? You don't have to have this. This is going to be in your doctor's hands. And it's mostly the same, but I think it's better once we get used to it. The first part is just the patient information, right? Remembering that this is voluntary, you do not have to do this, but it certainly can help. If you're not able to speak to your doctors or your providers, your first responders, this form speaks for you. Your name and all your information goes in there. And then you can see A says pulmonary resuscitation orders. So this is what the patient orders are if the patient has no pulse and is not breathing, right? So this is what you, after a conversation with your doctor, you choose. Yes, I want CPR. The doctor checks the box. Or no, I don't want CPR. The doctor checks that box, right? On the form. So that for EMS and for first responders, that should be easier. It should be really quick information on helping them to know what to do. Now this is the part of the form that it's going to take some thinking and some training, but I think it's going to be really helpful. There's a section B now. Not just yes or no to CPR, but what else do I want? And these are the orders, treatment orders, that the doctors will follow if somebody has a pulse or they're breathing. So you get to choose, right? You have a serious illness. You talk to your doctors about the benefits and the risks of these types of interventions like CPR and ventilation. And you choose. Do I want full treatments? Do I want everything? Great, that's your choice. So what you're doing is saying yes to CPR in the first part, and then here you're saying, give me everything you got. Attempt to sustain my life by any medical means you got. Give me full treatment. Or you can talk to your doctor about maybe you're in a different place and you just want some treatments. You don't particularly want to be resuscitated, but you want the best care you can get to be comfortable and to live as well as you can there. So you talk about getting selective treatments. You check that box. And there's going to be a lot more information about what that means. And there's going to be a lot more education on that. So remember, this is just a final form, but you'll get a lot more information as we go. And for people who, let's just say someone is really at the end of life, they're in a hospice situation where the doctors have already determined that they have 6 months or less to live, or, they're at that point where they're really just focused on being comfortable, getting the best possible care to live every day as well as they can. You can check that box of only do comfort care treatments. Now these 3 things have worked so well in many of the other states around us. It's one of the reasons why we're bringing it into Massachusetts. Because even though this looks like a lot right now, there's going to be a lot of information before this. So when you're ready to make those choices, you can. So this is the big part of the form. There are 2 more decisions in C and D. If you're talking to your doctor and you say, look, can I do some other things if I get really sick? Can we have dialysis? Can we work on infusions? Whatever your doctor and you decide, you can write it in there. But EMS may not be able to help with that. It really differs in every state. And then for some people, they have to hit that decision of, do I want to have healthy nutrition? If I can't eat or drink or swallow anymore, what do I want my care providers to do? So these are optional. You don't have to do C and D. You talk about it with your doctor, you see what's best. And then the rest of the form is pretty much the same. You sign it, your agent signs it, the doctor signs it, you got a valid pulse form. It's going to go into this registry so that it's always there for you. They're also hoping that with these check boxes, it's very straightforward about what the instructions are. Okay, so I know we're getting past time here, but I just want to open this up to anyone in the room who has a comment about this. If the responders have a comment, I know OEMS is working really hard on these protocols right now, but it's always open for comment.
I think from the EMS side of this, just documentation. I can't say it enough. If you do not have these papers, we cannot honor them, okay? We go into houses every day, go to medicals every day, and I hear every day, all day, I'm the person's healthcare proxy because I've been taking care of them for the last 6 months. That's not legal. I can't take your advice because you tell me that you're a healthcare proxy or something like that, just so you know, okay? So if you want us to honor something, have the documentation there. And a lot of times, I fully understand there's a lot going on, medical issues in the home, things like that. Oh, I have the paperwork, I just don't know where it is. If we do not have the paperwork, we cannot honor what your requests are, okay? So if you have any one of these forms that you wish to present to us, please leave it in a spot that you know where it is at all times. It's readily available to hand to us, okay? And don't make copies of it. Or you can make copies of it for a separate file, so you have some. We need the original one with the signatures on it and everything else. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. And I think in telling the truth, it comes down to as simple as that. You know, we have a great system in Massachusetts, which is if we don't tell people with these forms, don't treat me, they're going to treat you. And they're going to treat you as best and well as they can. And that's what we want, mostly. But if you come to the point where you want to limit some of that, they need those documents on paper.
And these forms are good at any age. It's just not for us as an age, we're all on there. So it's just not for that. It's for young people as well. You know, people may have some issues, but also too, you just don't know when life takes over, right? So these are important things you could share with the family. Forms that can share, we'll put it on the website. And it's just something to understand. It doesn't, I didn't mean to bring it in as a depression thing, you know, for everybody to, but just to have that, be a hunter-gatherer of information and to understand what you have rights in certain cases, and what you can do to have your rights adhered to. So I thank you so much, Alan, for everything, and we do have forms and also training, and March, I believe we're going to see you again for training in terms of some of the forms.
Yeah, and we're very happy to do, keep the all the time for folks, and, you know, making sure everybody has these documents. The hardest thing for the healthcare proxy is getting those witnesses, so if we can help you, happy to do that. Thank you, everybody, for your time. This is the first time we mix everyday people with first responders.
I know, I appreciate well, it's a large
everything is available for you.
Thank you. I appreciate all the information. It was helpful. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you for all your comments.